Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now on the phone is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky. He has served as the Senate Republican leader since 2006 and holds senior positions on the Appropriations, Agriculture, and Rules committees. One of the most ardent defenders of the First Amendment in Washington, Leader McConnell will deliver a key address at the American Enterprise Institute tomorrow on the First Amendment. And Leader McConnell, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be with you.
Well, you have warned us for some time about the growing threat to political speech. In light of the emerging IRS scandal, you seem almost prescient on this subject. Can you share with us the concerns that you will highlight in your address tomorrow?
Yeah, actually, I spoke to this issue a year ago at the American Enterprise Institute here in Washington and pointed out the abuses of the IRS that were happening already. I've been getting complaints from Tea Party groups about the difficulty of getting their tax-exempt status, which they're entitled to under the law. Pointed out efforts to intimidate groups into not buying television advertising that were being proposed over at the Federal Communications Commission, and other examples of executive branch efforts to quiet the voices of their critics. So I'm going to go back to AEI tomorrow with, I guess, what could best be described as the "I told you so" speech, because since then we know for sure, because the IG at the IRS has confirmed that these groups were, in fact, being targeted. Mm-hmm. Now an investigation is underway in the House of Representatives, and we'll find out, who did it and who ordered it.
Leader McConnell, you recently wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post. In it, you stated that there is ample evidence to suggest that the culture of intimidation in which the IRS tactics were allowed to flourish goes well beyond one agency or a few rogue employees. Why do you think this culture that threatens political speech exists?
Well, it started when the president shook his finger at the Supreme Court during the State of the Union a few years ago and basically lectured them about the decision they made that relates to political free speech. And it's not surprising, not only did the president single out individuals in the country for special attacks. You had Democratic members of the U.S. Senate writing to the IRS suggesting that they do exactly what they ended up doing. There's no question that after the Democrats lost the Congress in November 2010, they turned to the bureaucracy to try to quiet their critics. We see it at the FEC, the SEC, at the Department of Health and Human Services. This was a fairly rampant effort encouraged by the most prominent Democratic elected officials in the country. Mm-hmm. And so it's not really surprising. And I'm not suggesting here that the president picked up the phone and called Lois Lerner, but all she had to do was read the newspaper or turn on the TV to know what the president and his allies were hoping the bureaucracy would do to quiet the voices of his critics. Mm-hmm.
President Obama says he knew nothing about the IRS targeting of conservatives, but half of Americans think that he is behind the IRS targeting. Do you think so? And do you think that we need a special prosecutor to look into this?
I think the Congress is likely to do the most responsible investigation. Any prosecutor appointed by the Justice Department would be kind of like the administration investigating itself. They could take that step if they chose to. But the investigation, I think, will have the most credibility is the one conducted by the Republican House. And I think, rather than jump at the conclusions, we need to have a complete and thorough investigation and let the facts lead us wherever they take us.
Leader McConnell, while we have you, I want to get your quick take on a couple things. President Obama yesterday called for a 1/3 reduction in U.S. and Russian strategic nuclear warheads. He's indicated that he can bypass treaties in Congress if the Russians agree. Do you believe the president has the authority to cut the nuclear arsenal? And what will Congress do if he does this without congressional authority?
I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is having no nuclear capability at all in a world in which at some point, in spite of our best efforts, terrorists may end up having nuclear capability is not a sound policy. So I don't know whether the president yesterday was suggesting we go to zero or not, but going to zero would be highly irresponsible.
To immigration, it looks like a comprehensive immigration reform bill is going to pass the Senate. Senator Sessions is trying to stop it. Does this become a reality this year? Are we going to have immigration legislation signed into law this year?
You know, we still got about a week and a half to go on the immigration bill, and I just don't want to handicap the prospects of it clearing the Senate. I think it's much too early to tell. We still have plenty of really significant amendments, including ones that seek to strengthen the border that have not yet been voted on. So I think you won't have a clear line on this issue until probably the end of next week.
Leader McConnell, getting back to the speech tomorrow at the American Enterprise Institute, can you give us some insight into what solutions you will propose that protect the individual rights guaranteed to all citizens in the First Amendment?
Well, the solution is to defend the First Amendment. The First Amendment served us well for over 200 years, and all of these efforts to intimidate American citizens into not speaking up and to try to prevent them from promoting causes that they support need to stop. I don't think we need to pass anything. We need to stop doing what we're doing and trying to intimidate American citizens into not speaking up. And the president needs to accept the fact that not everybody's going to applaud what he's doing. Being criticized as part of public life. And I think efforts to quiet the voices of your critics always backfire, and this has backfired on him as well.
All right, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, thanks so much for being with us today.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.